Hello, welcome back to 30 Days of Mania, WrestleMania 18 from the Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada. Yeah, so we watched, there's only really two matches I think to watch on this show if you're going to kind of select the highlights, which is what we've been doing over the past 18 WrestleManias. Rock and Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan came back to WWF after about 10 years or so, maybe give or take a few in between, I guess. And they came back with the NWO and as a heel, and they put him with The Rock. And a lot of people wonder why didn't they do Austin and Hogan, because Austin was really the bigger star than The Rock. I don't know why they did that. I mean, Austin really got kind of the bum end of that deal by wrestling Scott Hall. No offense to Scott Hall. The match wasn't bad or anything, but to put Austin in the middle of the show, I don't know what they were doing there. But anyway, Rock and Hogan, they were pretty much the main event of this show, even though they weren't the last match. And yeah, just an amazing WrestleMania moment. What do you think of Rock and Hogan?
Well, Hulk is just old.
He is. And
No,
he was.
I mean, like you said that he broke his rib.
I don't know if he completely broke it, but he definitely cracked it, or
Well,
something.
that's
He injured
equally
it.
painful or more, and
Yeah.
and he's holding it at
was
the end of the show, and it's just he probably wouldn't have like 10 years ago because
He was 49
He's
at this WrestleMania.
crumpling or something. Like yeah, a cut he can handle obviously, but
Yeah.
and at the end someone comes and beats him up, and it's just I cracked my rib once and I couldn't even lift my right arm, and he has to like get beaten, and then The Rock obviously knows, but then he's like, yeah, puts him into the ring, which is really cool, and so The Rock gets to do that. But he does it on that side, and I'm like, oh my god, every time he lifts his arm it must really, really hurt.
Well,
No idea where he does it though.
He's probably loving it, the adrenaline and stuff.
True, but still. But it made me like The Rock a little extra, because you could tell that he asked him if he's alright and stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, he did take a few bumps that I was quite impressed by, since he's as old as he is. I know it's not that old, but it was high.
Yeah, and he's never been a guy to take that many bumps anyway. But yeah, so it was just interesting how Hogan was a heel, Rock was the face. Hogan was beating the crap out of Rock in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, just really heelish stuff. But the crowd they couldn't help but go nuts for Hogan. It was one of the biggest crowd reactions I've ever seen, like throughout the whole match, where they're just hanging off everything Hogan's doing. They're just loving it. And Rock and Hogan didn't really, you can tell they planned the match where Hogan's the heel and Rock's the face, and they didn't really change that, according to how the crowd was going. Hogan's being a heel, he's taking his belt off, he's whipping the Rock with it. But the crowd are loving it, so it was quite an interesting kind of dynamic to the match. And again, just two great icons of wrestling. It's like one of the kind of dream matches. And I don't know, I think maybe Austin and Hogan wouldn't have been as good. I don't know. I just think Rock and Hogan are of that same ilk of just larger than life, big personalities, and whereas Austin's more of a gritty, down to hard hitting kind of workhorse character. What
Was his match even any good in this
Yeah, it was alright. That was great, the stunner on Hall, but it was just not what Austin deserved. He was in the middle of the card, and he left WWF not long after this, and took his blow and went home, which CM Punk did a couple of weeks ago. The exact same thing. Austin was not happy, and he left, and he felt like the WWF would like putting roadblocks in front of him. That's to quote him directly, and I got to feel like this is one of them. Anyway, Rock Hogan is awesome. I'm sorry, I get carried away. Great moment, the stare down at the beginning, the crowd's going nuts, and Hogan hulking up, the crowd's just losing their shit.
Shouldn't we be talking about Undertaker and Ric Flair?
Oh yeah, Undertaker. Oh yeah, we watched Undertaker, Ric Flair. Forgot about that. That's a great match. I really enjoyed it. Just a great old school brawl, bloody. From Flair, and just a nice fight. There's a huge superplex off the top rope, which is just ridiculous that Ric Flair took that.
Ric Flair is just old too.
Yeah, fun appearance from Arn Anderson.
It's actually cool. We actually watched some of that too.
We watched a tiny bit of the women's match.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. She hates the women's wrestling now, but she was kind of interested by what Lita was doing, which is only fair enough because she was actually good. Yeah, Undertaker. Yeah, fun appearance from Arn Anderson came in, gave Undertaker a spine buster. I love that moment. Even bladed for the 30 seconds he was in the match. Really entertaining, you know. And this is where they kind of mentioned that Undertaker was now 10-0, and that famous shot where he's on the ring apron and he's like 10. So yeah, anything you want to add? Undertaker, Ric Flair.
It was good, all things considering. I don't know, by this point, Ric Flair mainly just bladed, didn't he? I'm kidding. You know what I mean, though. He's getting old too, and so it's limited.
He tried to do the spot where he gets thrown into the turnbuckle and he does the flip over and runs down the apron, but he just didn't make it. And then, so Undertaker, you know, beat him down, took him to the other corner, beat him down a bit, and then they did the spot again and he made it this time.
He tried to do it and he didn't make it.
Yeah.
I only noticed that he made it.
Yeah, so I don't like it when people do stuff in a match and it doesn't work, so they just try it again. And I don't know, that's just a pet peeve of mine. But it was still cool when he did it, you know, because
I guess not everybody notices that they try something and...
No, of course not. Not everyone notices stuff like that. But,
especially not at
the opening music was not American Beautiful, it was Saliva singing the theme song, Superstar.
We're going backwards now.
Huh?
We're going backwards.
Yeah, no, I'm just throwing it in there before we talk about the main event, because it might go on a little bit, I'm sorry. So yeah, that was that. No American the Beautiful, just Saliva, you know. I enjoyed it at the time, but it is what it is. The main event, Triple H versus Chris Jericho. There's a lot I want to talk about. Anything you want to add? We'll talk about.
Dead crowd.
Dead crowd completely. Rock
working the leg way too much. I thought it was so boring. The first 15 minutes? Okay, maybe 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. The crowd didn't really. I don't know. It's like the second the crowd wakes up, I wake up a little bit too. If they're quiet.
That's funny because you were like, oh, the crowd are waking up now. Pedigree. 1, 2,
3 done.
Oh.
They were alive for maybe 15 seconds.
I think it was quite telling that you reacted like, oh, because I think you were expecting them to kick out the pedigree.
Yes.
Because at this point we're now used to the fact that a WrestleMania and main event, you know, finishes are kicked out of and all this.
Yeah.
This one was a very...
I was waiting for them to kick off the referee.
Yeah, this is an old school... What was that?
Message.
Oh. This was an old school wrestling match, you know, when the finisher gets hit, the match is over. And I like that about it, but... And it's not a bad match, but it shouldn't have gone on last. They should have known that Hogan and Rock was going to complete... I mean, Hogan and Rock was on the poster. That was the main selling point.
They could have... I don't know, just a few more minutes after
the
crowd. They should have been like, oh, hang on. We should drag this on just a little bit longer because of the crowd, you know, just do this and that and blah, 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 and we'll end it the normal way. Because, I don't know, when the crowd goes, ah, when somebody kicks out, that's when you go, yourself.
But again, as I said, I appreciate the, you know.
I know, but it was boring. You just worked his left leg, and then Jericho did a few nice things from the top ropes. And they, he went through the commentator table, but it just looked like such a safe move, you know? Because he did it from the other commentator table, and so he landed, like, perfectly on it. There was nothing, but it wasn't...
Now, I hope you don't get pissed off now, but when you said that it was boring, I have to say that, you know, I'm more of a wrestling fan than you are, so sometimes I'll watch something and be like, oh, this is great, and you might be bored. But in this case, I also find this match boring. I swear when it happened, I've seen it a few times since. Every time I watch it again, I've almost forgotten most of what happens. And again, I'm already forgetting now. Not to take anything away from them.
Leg.
Not to take anything away from them. It was a good match. It was just a really lackluster WrestleMania main event. Now I'm going to get into
and a little bit of Stephanie, of course.
Yeah, now I'm going to get... I'll get into that now. I'm reading some stuff from Jericho's book here. The week before WrestleMania, there was loads of interviews done off the record, where, you know, this guy interviews wrestlers and they're outside of their character and they talk completely real. Triple H said on that show, which was, a few days before WrestleMania, he's in the main event with Jericho. Triple H said, Jericho can be good if he wants to be, but he's missing something. I don't know what that is, but something's keeping him from being what he could be. This is the guy you're wrestling at WrestleMania in the main event. This is the guy who's the champion that you're going to beat. Now, the psychology in wrestling always goes that you should always put over your opponent as someone who's good, so that when you beat them, it means something. If you're saying to the crowd, oh, he's not that good, when you beat him, so what have you proved? You know, and it's just bad. But Jericho said that that annoyed him. And of course, let me just get to his reaction. Jericho's, I mean, again, he mentions that, they didn't really want to follow Rock and Hogan, but that was the spot they were in. So they had the match, and what I liked about this is obviously they were disappointed that the crowd was quite, not very good. When Jericho got back through the curtain after the match, Undertaker was there waiting for him, and he said, "Congratulations, Chris. You worked hard tonight and during your whole run as a champion, and I'm proud of you." So that kind of made it up to Jericho, but he went up to...
Well, yeah, he was the one mainly working, wasn't it?
And
Triple H just complained about his leg and then beat on Stephanie a little bit.
Yeah.
It's true, that's what he did. And then the last 30 seconds he woke up with the crowd.
So Jericho then went up to Vince and was like, he says as good as Taker's comments were to him, Vince's comments brought him back down to earth. He asked Vince what he thought of the match, and Vince went, "It was good." You could tell Vince was bullshitting him, and he knew that the experiment, as he said, the Jericho experiment was over. Now, one more thing I want to add was Jericho's pay for WrestleMania, and if you don't know this story, this is just crazy. You usually get your paycheck a few months after a pay-per-view. So in June of that year, he was waiting for his WrestleMania paycheck, and he'd heard when you main event WrestleMania, you get like a huge check, much big, because it's about how big the show is, where you are on the card and stuff. And he'd heard that some people even got paid up to about $1 million for a match at WrestleMania. So he was expecting like a 6-figure sum, maybe a 7-figure sum. He got a 5-figure sum. He was kind of like, oh, that's a bit not what I was expecting. It wasn't bad or anything, but he wasn't expecting it. So he went to Triple H and he asked him, how much did you make? Triple H made 5 times the amount that Jericho made. Yeah. And so Jericho was really pissed off, especially considering, as he says here, when Jericho was in the Invasion pay-per-view in 2001, he was one man in a 10-man match, and he made more than he did in the main event of WrestleMania.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's just crazy. And he asked, backstage, what's going on? I want to quit the company. I feel like you don't, care about me and stuff. JR said that Vince felt that in this match, people were just paying to see Triple H. And Jericho was, really pissed off about it, stormed off to Vince and was like, this is ridiculous. And Vince went, okay, cut him a check. And that was that. But still, that is ridiculous, I think.
It is.
And I feel bad for Jericho. And
Jericho was the one working the match the most.
Well, that's debatable, but,
Yeah, but...
You're out of camera shot. Now this video's gone on longer than any of the other ones. I'm sorry, I just had to put that in there because I feel like Jericho...
It's interesting.
Jericho deserves better than that, I think, as his run as a champion, and it was his idea for the whole Stephanie angle. We didn't even talk about that, but he'd had that feud with Stephanie, and so it was kind of like, now that he's gone heel, what? Yeah, literally, I've seen her do that before.
Yeah,
She's digging under a blanket. Where was I? Jericho, Stephanie, yep, so it was Jericho's idea for Stephanie to join him once he was the champion. And, he thought the crowd would hate it, and they did, but it just wasn't that good. And it turned into Triple H versus Stephanie rather than Triple H versus Jericho. And it's just like, and he says in his book as well that one of the match graphics was Triple H versus Chris Jericho with Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon was in the foreground, Jericho was in the background. And as you can tell from the crowd, that all they wanted to see was him to pedigree Stephanie. The whole match was built around him trying to grab her and pulling her in the ring, and then he hits the pedigree on her, and the crowd were like, yeah. That was the only reaction they gave, really. The way they built this match up was all about Stephanie, and Jericho was really kind of her lackey, which, again, was his idea, but he wanted to take it further. He wanted there to be an actual affair between him and Stephanie. And as he puts in his book, he ended up being pussy whipped without the pussy. Which is a bit of a crude way to put it, but I understand where he's coming from. Like, he really wanted to take that angle the full 9 yards, but Vince only took it half of what he wanted to do. I still don't think it was that great of an idea, but there you go. WrestleMania 18. Pretty lackluster ending, but a great kind of few matches in the middle with, Flair, Undertaker, Rock and Hogan. The thing that annoys me the most about the Triple H winning, being like the face coming back and winning the title, was that he lost the title to Hogan a month later, and got his legs cut out from underneath him because Vince was like, everyone loves Hogan again, let's put the title on him, and then that failed, so they gave the title to Taker.
Great impression.
And then so they gave the title to Undertaker, and then they gave that to The Rock then, I think, and then it was very chopped and changed throughout 2002, and then Triple H turned heel anyway. So there you go, WrestleMania 18. As I say a lot, it is what it is. Anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
Thanks for watching.